The Scorpio Blueprint, Step 1. Face the truth without flinching. The first step isn't about action, it's about radical honesty. And for those of us who've been hiding from ourselves, this is where the real work begins. You can't transform what you refuse to see. You can't leave what you won't admit you're in. You can't reclaim power you won't acknowledge you've given away. I know this feels impossible right now. I know because I've sat exactly where you're sitting, knowing something was deeply wrong but unable to name it, unwilling to face it, terrified of what acknowledging it would mean. For years, I told myself I was fine. I had a good job, good friends, people in my life who needed me. I was managing, I was functional, I was holding it together. But late at night, when I couldn't sleep, when the mask came off and I was alone with myself, I knew. I knew I was dying inside. I knew that the life I was living wasn't mine. I knew that I'd become a ghost in my own story, watching everyone else live while I performed the role of supporter, helper, giver, fixer. And still, I didn't want to look at it, because looking at it meant I'd have to do something about it. And doing something about it meant everything would have to change. So I get it. I understand why you might hesitate, why you're listening to this but thinking, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe if I just adjust my expectations, if I just try harder, if I just love better. Stop. Right now, wherever you are, I need you to stop pretending. Stop the narrative that things are fine. Stop convincing yourself that if you just try harder, love more, give more, that the people in your life will finally see your worth. Stop telling yourself that your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. The Stoics understood that the obstacle is the way, but you have to see the obstacle first. Marcus Aurelius didn't begin by conquering Rome. He began by conquering his own illusions about himself and the world. You need to do the same. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I need you to answer them with brutal honesty. Not the honesty you've been practicing, the kind where you soften the edges, make excuses, protect the people who've hurt you. Real honesty, the kind that makes your hands shake as you write in your journal. First, where am I making myself smaller to make others comfortable? Maybe you've dimmed your natural fire because someone told you that you were too much, too intense, too aggressive. So now you apologize for your passion and second guess your instincts. Maybe you've learned to take up less space, to shine less brightly because someone in your life needed to be the star. So now you celebrate everyone else while your own light grows dimmer. Maybe you've stopped sharing your ideas, your curiosity, your brilliance because someone made you feel like your mind was chaotic rather than magical. Where have you diminished yourself? Where have you muted your voice, hidden your talents, suppressed your personality because the real you made someone uncomfortable? Who in your life consistently takes more than they give? This one is hard because we want to believe the best in people. We want to believe that relationships are equal, that love is reciprocal, that the people we care about us the same way. But look at your life honestly. Who always has a crisis when you need support? Who calls you when they need something but is unavailable when you do? Who takes your generosity for granted? Who treats your time, your energy, your love as if it's infinite and worthless? I had a friend once who would drop everything for other people, but never dropped anything for me. Middle of the night phone calls, Last minute emergencies, hours of listening to the same problems she never actually wanted to solve. I showed up for her all of those times. And then my father got sick, and I needed her. Just once, I needed her to show up for me the way I'd shown up for her hundreds of times. She was busy. She had plans. She'd call me later. She never did. That's when I realized this was not friendship. This was a transaction where I had agreed to pay everything and receive nothing. Who are those people in your life? Name them. Look at the pattern honestly. Next question. What am I tolerating that is slowly killing my spirit? Maybe it's a job where you're overworked and undervalued, where you give your best ideas and watch someone else take credit, where you work on weekends and late nights and still, somehow, never do enough. Maybe it's a romantic relationship where you're always the one trying, the one compromising, the one apologizing, where your partner knows your vulnerabilities and uses them against you, where you've learned to walk on eggshells in your own life. Maybe it's a family dynamic where you're the emotional caretaker, the peacemaker, the one who absorbs everyone's dysfunction so they can stay comfortable, where your role is so fixed that you can't remember who you'd be without it. I tolerated a workplace that treated me like I was disposable. My ideas were dismissed, my contributions were minimized, my boundaries were violated regularly. And I stayed because I thought loyalty mattered, because I thought endurance was strength, because I thought if I just proved myself enough, things would change. They never did. But it was worse than that. I tolerated something far more insidious. I tolerated my own self abandonment in pursuit of validation from strangers. A decade ago, I was in Singapore leading yet another workshop, one of hundreds I had agreed to lead because I was chasing other people's validation that I was an expert in my field. I was standing in front of a room full of people who looked to me for knowledge, for guidance, for expertise. And during a break, I looked down at my phone. My father was very ill. I stared at those words. I felt something crack open inside my chest. And then, and this is the part that still breaks me, I turned away from the knowledge. I shuddered my heart. I closed the door on the grief that was demanding to be felt. I went back into that room and continued teaching because I was important to these strangers, because I had committed to being there, because my professional reputation mattered more in that moment than my own father. I was missing the chance to tell him how much I loved him, to tell him what he represented in my life, the one person who loved me unconditionally, who never asked me to be anything other than myself, who saw me completely and loved what he saw. And I chose strangers over him. I chose validation over love. I chose performance over presence. That moment, that choice, haunts me still. Not because I can change it, but because it showed me with devastating clarity how far I had strayed from myself, how completely I had been trained to prioritize everyone else's needs, everyone else's expectations, everyone else's validation over what actually mattered. My father deserved better. I deserved better. But I had been so conditioned to believe that my worth came from what I could give others, from how useful I could be, from how much I could sacrifice, that I didn't even question the choice. I just made it automatically, like I'd been programmed. So, what are you tolerating? What's the thing you know you shouldn't accept, but you've normalized because it's been happening for so long? And more importantly, what are you sacrificing in service of that tolerance?